Joining. Super excited to get this kind of group together and jump into, I think, a pretty exciting set of topics around Proteus. We had a ton of signups for this, so I know that there's going to be people coming in and out, but we're also going to be recording this so we can distribute and share afterwards in case there's anything that gets missed. And I think what we're going to be covering today is around a super exciting topic around not just Proteus but ROI specifically. There are, as many of you know, a lot of layers to Proteus and ways that it's valuable. So I want to first start with just a quick kind of like reframe of refresher and reminder of really restating what Proteus is for and why it's used as a starting point. And then go into the core of this around ROI and specific examples here with a special featured guest. So we'll start with kind of just a reminder about how Proteus is used and why and its core value. And ultimately, we exist for the purpose of building better athletes using a very revolutionary approach to strength and power, specifically around measurement. I founded the company really around the notion or thesis that we move in 3 dimensions and through multiple planes of motion, but traditionally strength and power tends to be measured in a single dimension. And the reason why is simply because it's easy. But we know that behind every great athlete, for example, is the ability to rotate and produce force and speed through multiple planes of motion. So so Proteus's technology was really created to solve primarily this really critical void that exists in data around this very important pillar of human performance. So ultimately what we did is we built what Proteus is, which is primarily a sports science lab in a box for the purpose of building better athletes. And it's not just a tool, as you know, it's the only way to measure strength and power for multi-planar movements. And so with that, the primary ways that Proteus is used is from a measurement standpoint, of course, is eliminating guesswork in creating personalized programs. It allows you to cut down evaluation time to as little as 5 minutes. It allows you to easily communicate the value that you deliver, whether it's through progress, comparisons, areas needing attention, and prove to your clients, members, athletes, that they are in fact benefiting from your services. It's also a tool that's used with every single client type and demographic and all skill levels of trainers, and ultimately allows you to expand your business via new revenue streams and client engagement. And then beyond that, of course, as you know, isn't just kind of a revolutionary assessment tool. It's a completely new and revolutionary resistance training tool that is a tool in your toolkit. Many people use it for, as the ultimate tool for developing triplanar power and speed. We see it used across, from early post-operative rehabilitation through peak performance training and everywhere in between. And also, as you know, we're now trusted by hundreds, close to 400 businesses in the US and Canada. We've got thousands of trainers that are on our platform, and recently we've surpassed 75,000 users, ranging from age 8 to age 98. And that includes, of course, some of the best athletes in the world across all major sports. There have been some really notable kind of recent advancements, I think, in a number of our sites who have kind of cracked the code in leveraging Proteus to produce significant gains and benefits for their business. And we see this ranging from, introducing standardized assessments for all athletes and members that can be operated, by a novice. We see this in the form of using assessments to convert athletes to clients and keep them coming back. We've seen improvements, in that conversion of 77%, by as much as 77% in the first month. We've seen sites like, Kings of Fitness in New York, which has increased, revenue by 25% in an incredibly short period of time after getting Proteus. We've got, Bill Miller in Chicago has done incredible work expanding his business, leveraging Proteus for combines. We've got sites charging for testing. And then we've even have, sites like Davis Sports Medicine in Southern New Jersey that's, charges $25 for a 15-minute HIIT session. And they have a community of 50 to 60-year-old non-athlete women that coined the term, "Do you Proteus?" So it's pretty extensive in terms of the applications. And so what we want to do is we want to start telling these stories in a way that not just feature our kind of partner sites, but so that our kind of broader partner set is able to benefit from things that we've learned, successes that have occurred, so that those potentially or some of these things can be applied for your own benefit. So today we're going to be featuring Joe Ferrer. And Joe's going to be talking about really focused on sports performance realm right now. But this formula is applicable to all types of businesses. Quick background on Joe. Joe's been in the sports performance industry approaching 15 years now. He's worked with hundreds of pro athletes between NFL, NBA, MLB, and over that time in both California and Florida. He now mostly is focused on high school and collegiate baseball, as well as MLB over the last 5 years since he opened his business, and he's expanding into softball and other markets as well. We're going to let Joe do almost all the talking today, for sure, because we want to hear directly from him. But other high-level points is that Joe has calculated that he has generated between $15,000 and $18,000 from Proteus in a very short period of time. He's primarily monetizes it in two ways. One is he's actually done a slight increase to his membership rate, as well as charging for performance tests. And we'll go into the details on all those things. So let's go ahead and I want to pass over to you, Joe. Welcome. Thank you very much for taking the time to be here. Super excited to kind of dive into the details, and love to start by beyond welcoming you, asking you to tell us a little bit more about your business.
Yeah, thanks, Sam. I appreciate it. And, I know many of you on here. There's many of you I don't know, but before we get going here, Sam, thank you for thinking of me. Thank you to Proteus for thinking of me to do this. Very grateful for the opportunity. I've watched the Cressy webinar, when that happened recently, the Bobby Stroop webinar, which was awesome a few months back. So yeah, I appreciate it for you guys thinking of me. As far as my business, you've already mentioned a little bit. I started my business in 2019, so we've been operating for 5 years now. And over my career, I've trained all the athletes from, smaller kids starting at 7, 8 years old, all the way up through professional athletes in many different sports. But since I opened my business, I've focused, it's pretty much 98% baseball players, I'd say, middle school, high school, and collegiate being the main focus. And then every offseason I get, several dozen to 2 dozen MLB minor league baseball players that come in. And just recently, our business is starting to get into the softball market, and it's actually because I onboarded a athlete. I did a Proteus assessment on that athlete. He goes to a high school in the area. He spoke to a friend of his whose daughter plays on the softball team there, and that's how we got connected. So we're going to start getting into the softball assessments a lot more and the softball training a lot more. But we get a few football players here and there, a couple other sports sprinkled in that call in, but I'd say 98% is baseball. It'd be nice if we branched out into all the other sports, but I kind of like being, you know, focused on one sport and just trying to do that one really well rather than trying to do many sports.
Yeah, makes a ton of sense. Now, is this primarily one-on-one? Is it small group, large group, a combination?
So
Tell us
yeah, so
about
it's kind of a combination of everything. Traditionally, I've done the group training, so anywhere from 6 to 12 athletes in a group. But a lot of families they want more semi-private and private. So I'll try to do a little bit of everything. Myself, my staff. We just have to schedule it out. But yeah, we do a little bit of everything.
Got it. Um, since you've been so gracious to join us and peel back some of the layers here, I want to start with an early question around, that's asking you to be a little vulnerable here and share what are some of the challenges that you faced recently. What are the kind of objectives for the business? What have you struggled with? What have you tried to, what are you really kind of focused on trying to solve? Tell us a little bit more about kind of evolving challenges.
Yeah, so when I first started the business, I partnered with a facility in California and a facility in Florida, and we were came out the gates pretty hot, so we got a lot of clients. This is pre-Proteus. Um, and, the main challenge, which I'm assuming is for a lot of people, is, when you start off and you have a decent clientele coming in, you're the new place, you're the hot place. So you're gonna, get clients immediately, but the struggle is always retaining clients. So how we'll never retain 100% of clients, but we want to be as close to that 100% mark as we can. So I'd say starting like early to mid 2021, um, we started just seeing like other facilities pop up in the area, whether it was in California and Florida, like somewhere's there's always a new facility popping up. And the athletes always say, I want to just go try it out, right? I just want to go see about it. It's new facility. They got new stuff. I want to go check it out. It's not necessarily always because they have something special or new to offer. It's just because, athletes like to do that. They move around. They like to try new things. So in the private sector, the name of the game is retention. So, if we sign up 50 athletes, I want to keep as close to 50 athletes as we can. And we were just trying to figure out ways to do that. And that's kind of where, Proteus entered, is because we can assess athletes super fast and we can give them results and we can track it over time. So, if we're constantly showing progress with a technology like Proteus, our thoughts are, why would the athlete, even if it's a new cool place in the area, why would they want to go? Like, they should want to stay with us because we're constantly giving them results. So again, you're never going to keep 100% of clients, but we want to keep as close to 100% as we can.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a main issue we were facing.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. And on that, I mean, very common, um, issue or, challenge for, I think for every business. I think, are you, um, there's retention is one piece of it, and then like attracting and converting to clients is another piece. Is there, do you actually have capacity if you were to attract more
Oh,
athletes to convert them, or is it you just are the main focus is retention, or is it just a balance of the two? You're trying to
no.
retaining
Well,
and
yeah, so the number one goal is retaining, because once you get a new client, the number one goal is to retain that client. But yeah, in addition to that, we are always trying to gain more athletes to come in. So um, um, Proteus has definitely helped that because if I send a report to a parent or an athlete and they share it with their friend, in the case which I was telling you with the softball player, that's how I attracted a new client. That parent showed the report to the other parent, and then the next few days I get a call. So yeah, I mean, I'm always trying to attract new clients in, especially within baseball and softball.
And it sounds like primarily through word of mouth, and we'll get that into that in a
Yes.
minute. So let's talk about then um, where Proteus fits into the equation. And I think let's start with, the ways that your trainers use Proteus. What are the benefits that you know you view that it provides for your athletes? Like with how does it enhance, advance the services that you provide, and who have you seen benefit from it and how?
So to start, we utilize it in many different ways. Um, you know, Proteus is always coming out with new software features too. So, we always evolve with that as well. But first and foremost, we use it to test every athlete. So our philosophy is, if we can't measure it, it's hard to track the progress and keep up with it. So every athlete that walks through the door, we test them. That's first and foremost. But we use it in a bunch of different ways. So like I mentioned earlier, we do group training. So say we start a group at 5 p.m. on the dot and there's 6 athletes in there and two more athletes are on the way, they're caught in traffic. When they get there, not to interrupt the flow of the group, we'll use it for warm-ups, right? So we just go over there, get in the workout center, self-guided workouts, just bring yourself through, if we're doing upper, lower, whatever we're doing, we'll use it to warm up. Um, Another way we use it for core training. We use it for power development work. So we recreate a lot of like different med ball throws on it. We use it as a readiness to train tool. You come in, you check your say jumping power for that day. We know what the baseline is. If it's lower, we may back off on training. If it's higher, we may increase the volume of that day. We use it to do general training. You could do any movement you can think of on Proteus. So we just throw it in there as, okay, we're going to do elbow flexion and extension today on Proteus. And then one of my favorites is just with the live metrics in the freestyle center. I use it a ton for competition. So every single athlete and even, Gen Pop adults, um, it is a very nice tool to use to create competition within the facility because I tell them do something as simple as a bicep curl. Let's see how much force you can produce. Let's see how fast you're producing that force, and it creates a huge buzz. Energy levels go up, and it creates a nice competition in the facility. So those are just some of the ways I use it every day in the facility.
Would you say, Joe, that one of the things that we hear a lot is that essentially, Proteus is an assessment tool. It's like the primary data hub that helps inform, you know, programming for all of your athletes. And then as a training tool, it's one of the tools in the toolkit, right? But the combination of those two things makes it very commonly used across a variety of different applications. But it all starts with kind of the assessment piece. Is that does that kind of, it sounds like it does, but does that kind of map to, generally speaking, like your usage in the way that you view how it's used at your facility?
Say restate that again one more
So
time.
like you start with an assessment, and that is like the data hub that helps inform, what an athlete needs to be working on and how you program for them, right?
Oh
And then
yeah,
when you
yes. So
program for them, then usually Proteus is used as a training tool, as one of the training tools of a variety of training tools that you're using.
yes, 100%. So we do a movement screen just to look at mobility, stability in the body, and then Proteus is uh, the next thing we do just to get a sense of globally where they're at, strength, power, and acceleration wise. And uh, we use it to train the athletes for sure. But as far as like the assessments, it's huge because just a quick example. I'll tell you a little story about two pitchers that I had come in. One pitcher called me. He was referred over to me because we had a Proteus, and he called me and he said, "Hey, from June 2022 to June 2023, I have peaked at 90 miles an hour. I'm stuck at 90. I'm strength training. I'm doing my plow ball routines. I'm eating good. I'm doing everything I think I need to do to get better and to throw harder." I said, "Okay, why don't you come on in?" I Proteus tested him, immediately found that this athlete had an ability to produce force. He was up in the 60th, 70th, 80th percentiles on some of the movements for strength. For acceleration, all those categories were in the 30, 40, 45, around there. So all I did was Proteus assess him and then just built him a program. He actually happened to be on our remote training app, which we could talk about a little more later on how I do that with Proteus and everything. But threw him on the app, gave him an 8-week program. The focus was power development, explosive movements, all type of plyometric based activities. And within 2 months, he texted me and he said he went to a showcase or an event, and he topped out at 92.9 miles an hour. So he was stuck for 1 year there. So I tell everyone that Proteus has given us the ability to help these athletes reach their genetic potential quicker than they would have with anything else, right? Because you could go anywhere and work out. And this is what I talk to so many people about, families. You could go anywhere and work out. You can go with a good trainer. You can go with an entry-level trainer. Like you could do um, deadlifts there and rows there and sled pushes there, and you could throw med balls there, but is it specific to what you need? Because a lot of kids think that because another player is successful, that if they just do what that successful player is doing, they're going to get better. But we know that now that that's not even close to being correct. So yeah, I mean that's how I use Proteus from a testing standpoint. And then another quick example on the opposite side of that force velocity curve, I had a pitcher come in. He was a first year JUCO college pitcher, and he was around 91, 92. And he came in, same thing. Proteus tested him. He was exact opposite. This athlete had the ability to accelerate. He just didn't produce much force overall. So I just put him on a program which was just, let's just get strong. We're not going to do any power development. We're not going to do all this extra med ball work. We're going to do some of it, but our emphasis is going to be on strength. Same thing. 8 weeks later, his pitching coach actually reached out to me and was like, "Hey, he's gone up to 96 now." So it's just success stories. And, that's the main way I kind of sell Proteus to my, you know, connections within the county, is just by telling these stories, because it's very powerful. And, it's helped me gain a bunch of more attention to the facility for sure.
Yeah, makes a ton of sense. We've definitely, we've been at this for long enough that we've definitely seen some pretty clear patterns on, you know, um, best practices, guidelines for having success with Proteus in a variety of fronts, or any variety of front at a certain business or facility. And I think one of the most important things that we found, though, is the beginning, right? How it's introduced, how it's used at the start. So I'm curious to know, like, I want to get into like how you communicate its value, because that's a really key part. But I want to start with, is there anything that you've learned specifically about, what you should or shouldn't do, right? When introducing Proteus, at a facility, based on based on your experience.
Yeah, so when we first started and got Proteus, there's always a little learning curve, just trying to, go through the test, see what exercises are in the test, looking at the metrics when it's done, start to look at that normative data, start to look at different cohort groups and things like that. Because every athlete, when they test on it, they want to know, is this good? Is this bad? So I think in the beginning, when we were trying to get a feel for it, we made it optional. We made it highly recommended, but optional. And anytime in our industry, when you make something optional, you're not going to get 100% of your clients, current clients, to hop on board to it. Because if you don't speak with conviction about why this is so important in your philosophy of training, then a lot of clients they're just going to be like, okay, well, if it's optional, I want to save some money. I'm not gonna do it, right? But what we ended up seeing was those clients that didn't do it, they didn't do the onboarding process, they just came in and trained. Um, they weren't getting results as fast, and the buy-in wasn't there, right? Because when we do these onboarding, when we do these assessments, we invite the parents to come, right? And we say, we want you to be here, we want you to see the results, we want you to ask questions. And that creates a sense of like comfort level with the facility, with the parent. It's a time where we as coaches can speak to the parents, because when you're busy, you don't really have a lot of time to speak to parents all the time. So in the beginning, I think we didn't do the best job of making it mandatory. So um, over the last 2 years, we've made it to where it isn't optional anymore, right? So we say, hey, if you want quicker results, we need to do this assessment, right? And it's been well received, and every single athlete that comes into our program now, we sell them on the number one thing. If you don't even train with us, the number one thing we want you to do is get assessed. Because now we can give those results to if they decide they don't want to train with us, okay, we can give those results to their high school coach, to their strength coach at the school. So I'd say the thing I learned from my business was to just, make Proteus, make our assessment, make our onboarding something that's mandatory and not optional. So I think that's the biggest thing we learned as a business.
Yeah, it's interesting too. I mean, you were also an early adopter. So at the time that you first started working with Proteus, I think at that point people really didn't even know what it was. That is improved dramatically over the last couple of years, where it's now kind of far from the case, but it's still often, hey, you're introducing something very new and different. And I think that maps to other things that we've heard from people of recommendations around like really, really important to make it at least a requirement to give it a shot.
Yeah, and
Did
can I make
yeah,
one other point? You know, I think when something, new and exciting like Proteus is in the market, a lot of facilities, including mine for a little while there, I was like, I don't want any other Proteus in the area. But we've gotten in our area like 5 or 6 or 7 more Proteus units. And it's actually done the opposite, because the more people that now know about it, now it's not like you're going to lose a bunch of clients. You're actually going to gain clients, because now people like, oh, you have Proteus. Whereas before they might have just been like, oh, like, I don't know what that machine is, and walk off. Now people come in my facility and they're like, oh, you have a Proteus. And they've seen it before, and they've seen it at other facilities in the area. So I think it's been really good. I mean, I don't want one in every little bay in my plaza, but like it's definitely helped to have a lot more Proteuses in our area.
yeah, that's really interesting because it seems counterintuitive, but
Yeah.
that's very often what we hear as well, if and when that happens. And another point to make clear too is that really depending on the client type or athlete type at a specific a business, one of our partner sites, um, the there are slight nuance differences in how I guess we would recommend introducing Proteus in terms of communicating what it is, its value. We have some awesome resources for current partners that are on this call right now. We have some awesome resources on our community platform that is very much evolving. And through that platform too, if there are things that are missing um, and you need to be directed to, or we need to kind of like revamp, do not hesitate to ask, because this is what the platform is here. This is evolving rapidly. So if you're like, hey, I just need clear statements of like, give me the tee up the way to, communicate this value in 1 second, right? To a high school athlete and their parent. What do I say? Like we actually have that in there, but that kind of thing, those kinds of requests, we ask that people don't hesitate from asking, because we've got a lot of really good guidance there. What have you found, Joe, that's like, because obviously there's no more efficient way to like grow a business than word of mouth, right? But it's something that's kind of it can be difficult to control, right? Because it kind of happens organically and naturally. And in fact, that's how Proteus has grown almost entirely from its beginning. Um, it really starts with like great experience that you're delivering and great results. So, you know, I'd love to know like what do you think your core demographic, like, those younger athletes, what do they love about Proteus, and then and what do their parents love about it? And what do you think it has been, and what do you think the reasons have been that you've gotten a lot of that word of mouth and that organic growth?
Yeah, so as far as the athletes, what they love, I think, is, every athlete, from young kids up through professionals, everything turns into a competition, right? And competition is good. Earlier in my career, I'd say, let's just come in, train. We don't all need to compete. But then as I went on, you could just see it over and over. Like everything is, okay, do a 10-yard sprint and they may go at 80%. But if I put them up next to their buddy, do a 10-yard sprint, they're going to go all out on that because they want to win. So I think the athletes love that Proteus has those live metrics in the freestyle mode. So when we're just doing, we're working out that day and at the end we say, okay, we're going to go over and do a rotational shot put today, or we're going to do a vertical jump. We get them all over and we have a competition and we write it on the dry erase board. Let's see who can produce the most force today at 18-pound shot put or 15-pound shot put. Let's see who can in watts. Let's see who can get the highest velocity scores. So I think the athletes like that competitiveness that Proteus provides. And those live metrics make all the difference. Like you could tell an athlete to throw a med ball, but if it's not being measured, they may not go all out. If it's being measured, then now they're gonna give their best effort. So, and we all know that the only way that these uh, your training translates or it actually works is if you do it with effort, right? You can't do anything 70% and expect it to transfer to your sport. So I'd say from an athlete perspective, the competitiveness with Proteus is huge. And then the parents just like that they can get the results in a quick way. The parents are busy, they're working, they drop the kids off, they leave, they come back, they pick them up. You try to get on a call with them, you can't, you're busy, they're busy. So with Proteus, when we want to, send out results, you just email it, one quick button, click it on the screen, and it's right there to their phone. And with the insights and recommendations tab that we can share as well. Now they can even see easy to read stuff because sometimes the parents don't even know how to like interpret everything we send them. So it's cool that Proteus has the graphs on there. Are you trending up? Are you trending down? It tells you if you're stronger on one side, and it tells you if you're stronger than you are fast. So they can just quickly read these reports and know that their money is being well spent. And get that validation that their son or daughter is improving every month at your facility.
Parental proof, that's a term we're hearing.
Parental proof, exactly.
And I'm kind of holding back a secret here, but I'll tease it out here that this group is going to be extraordinarily excited about. We are currently working on a revamp of the test results page that allows for super clear communication for anybody to understand, even at a glance, where do I stack up? How do I compare? Good, bad changes at the overall level, and then the kind of movement category level, which we think is going to be a game changer, paired with the like new analysis that we're doing with this normative data set we have to make the reference data, a lot more actionable, understandable, and applicable. So that's more on that to come, but basically we're investing heavily in making it a lot easier for you to be able to communicate your value by basically doing the job of presenting this information and what matters in a way more understandable way than we're currently doing. So that's coming. And Joe, I know you haven't even seen that yet or heard about that yet. So
I haven't.
you're gonna be absolutely pumped. So let's go into the details on the monetization side and talk about, you know, what have you done, how have you done it from, you know, membership pricing to assessments. One thing I want to ask actually first that I meant to follow on is like, do you typically create your own tests, or do you use our standardized tests, and do you do
I
group testing at all?
So number one, I use I mean, as you guys, I said it already, I train 98% baseball players. So I use the Cressy test. One, because it's a good test. And two, because the normative data is like growing every day. So like when you go and compare a high school athlete to another high school baseball player, there's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10,000 of a sample report, which is awesome. So I use that. But yes, I do create my own test. Sometimes I just want to test one or two things and I want to go quick, especially, when I am doing group testing. So now that feature's been out a while, in our weight rooms, we're just working out for the day. We're not going to do an entire Cressy test because, they're just there to get their daily workout in. But I'll just create a quick test, or I've designed some of my own tests that can take 1 minute or 2 minutes and I can still get a lot of information. So I will, and I created 5 tests so far, and I've even created tests for the younger kids too, at lighter resistances, which has been really good. So I um, definitely have used the Design a Test Center. I've created my own tests, but I mostly use the Cressy test, and then yes, I will, if I have 10 kids in the weight room, I do use the group testing feature, and I do that on the weekends too for those combines we were talking about. I get a high school baseball team in or something like that, and I'll use the group testing so that they can all go through it together.
Got it. Um, okay, that's helpful to know. So let's talk about monetization a little bit deeper and more detailed. So I know I want to talk mostly on the monetizing assessments, but I do know that before we get into that, you mentioned that you did increase your membership prices. Was that so? How much did you increase? This is a multi-pronged question, but how much did you increase by? Was there any kind of resistance to that? And how did you communicate, or was it tied specifically to Proteus, or was it just around the same time? Tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, we started off, we felt like our entry level to our memberships was reasonably priced within the market. So before we had Proteus, we started off, we had 3 different packages, and we charged between 175 and 275 for a monthly membership. The higher range was for unlimited training. The lower range was for 4 hours a week or 3 hours a week. So that was our price range. As soon as we got Proteus, we increased it by $25 to every new member that came in. We kind of grandfathered in some of our, first clients that we had. We raised it up $25 and no one said a word. But we use Proteus every single day in some form. Like I mentioned earlier. So yeah, we increased $25 across the board.
So you said no one said a word, but did you communicate? I'm just curious. Did you communicate that there was a reason behind the
Yeah,
change
I
in?
didn't, I didn't, I didn't go on like our social media account and say, "Hey, everyone, we're raising up 25 because we got Proteus." But my individual, like every client that walked in, if they heard from someone that our rates were lower and now they're a little higher, I'd say, "Yeah, we got a brand new device in here. It's going to really help us, get results quicker, streamline the process, and we can use it every day for training." So I would have that conversation one-on-one with the parents, but I didn't go on somewhere globally and say, "Hey, we're raising the prices 25 because the Proteus is here." I did it one-on-one with each parent that came in.
And I know we're gonna get, that's good to know. I know we're gonna get to this, but just curious, did you make that change after you got Proteus or before? And the reason I ask is really around like, we often see people wanting to, or hungry to like try to, focus on ROI right out of the gate, right? Like on day one. Um, is that premature in your
Yeah,
stand?
so well, we got Proteus in, and then I think it wasn't like the next day, but yeah, like over the course of I think it was 1.5 or 2 months after that we raised the prices across the board. So yeah, we didn't do it's not like Proteus was drilled into the ground and the next day we're like 25 up. So we let it get people excited about it, because you wanna set the stage a little, I guess, and then we raised it up.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's we're hearing that more and more as like a really good way you're introducing it. Like it's a lot easier to communicate its value and justification for membership price increases if that's the direction you're going to go. If the users of it or the members or the athletes know what it is and have already experienced its value, especially as it relates to parents. That makes a ton of sense. Let's talk about the assessment piece because I think that's been a primary, revenue driver for you and an area that a number of other sites partner sites have started to do. So tell us about this. So you've started charging for assessments, but this
Yeah,
is for outside athletes, for athletes that are not current members.
no, both. So when we first started, I'll kind of go back to that. When we first started, we made it highly recommended but optional, right? And we had at any given time we'd have like 60, 65, 70 clients training with us, and we made it optional for them. So like I said, I think maybe 30 of them or 25 of them said yeah, we want to do it, and paid the price for that. But all the other ones just, they want to save a little money. They think they're already doing well. They didn't think they needed it and they didn't do it. So that's kind of where we, over the course of the next 2 years, we switched it to everyone is required to do it. Now, again, a lot of businesses, they have their own model. So I'm not saying like, oh, because I've done it this way, you do it this way. But I think if you're going to, and this is again what I learned over time, I think if Proteus is going to be a big part of your process, then you as the business owner, your coaches all have to be on board and selling it and talking about you know, how much you believe in it to get clients better quicker. Because I always tell every high school parent, you got 3 years to either get scouted by a Major League Baseball scout or recruited by a college, right? After that, you graduate and, now you're trying to play catch up. So within those 3 years, and again, I'm saying this because I switched my way that I speak about Proteus. It no longer was, hey, you could do it if you want. It became, hey, this is how we figure out what you need. This is one of the sole ways, besides the movement screen, that we figure out what you need and how we can get you to where you need to be fast. So, yes, you look at how many clients you have. You have 100 clients, and you say, okay, I'm going to make it mandatory. I have these, this 10 that have been with me since they're little kids. All right, we're going to kind of grandfather them in. We're going to let them test on it for free, and we're going to use that to show everyone else like what's going on with them. So again, there's different business models, but yes, number one, I charge for assessments. Number two, I've increased our rates across the board. And then, going back to the online stuff, I was always a coach that was like, I need to see you in person. I can't just have you and believe that you're working out at your house or anything like that. So what I do now is all those athletes that tell me they can't get there, I say, okay, come in, do a Proteus test. Let's see what you need, and I will build you a program on our app. So that is another way I've started to monetize, because some athletes, and we have had it, they come in like I told you, I have a pitching coach that sends me a bunch of his athletes. They just test with me, I give them their results, and they go on their way. But other athletes that come in the facility, I test them, they don't train anywhere else, but they also can't make it to our facility. So that's the athletes I put on our remote app, and I'm making a big push. I think we have like 30 athletes, 35 athletes on our remote training app now. They're required to test, and as long as they test, we put them on the app. So that's another way I've started to gain some traction in monetizing there. And then I know you mentioned Davis PT, how they do they charge to work out on Proteus on the workout center with those self-guided workouts. So with our pitchers now, after they throw a bullpen, we are going to start, you know, allowing them to use Proteus with this self-guided area and do some workouts in there as well and charge for that. And then we already talked about the combines, the testing days on the weekend. So, those are just 5 ways right there that we are monetizing Proteus on a monthly basis.
Let's talk. That's great stuff. Let's talk more on the combines and the um just the attracting even individual outside assessments, because I want to start by also saying, like, this has been a area that we've seen kind of explode across a number of partner sites over the last year and a half. And coupled with the fact that we are investing heavily in, like, we want to have this, we've got this location finder map that is somewhat hidden right now, but is about to make its way to the forefront of our website, because we get so many athletes coming to Proteus saying, where's the nearest one? We're starting to direct them to kind of our affiliate partner sites. All the more reason to get certified, become an ambassador, go through that process. And so we have a vision of having this network of testing centers, and a lot of our partner testing centers, and a lot of our partners want to do that. So what are you charging for these assessments? So if somebody comes to you and you're doing an assessment, whether or not you bring them on as a client, right? Or if you give them a program that they go somewhere else, they're paying you something to get assessed, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
how much, what are you charging?
Yeah. So for the Proteus, the Cressy test, we charge $125. Um, and that will include a follow-up test, so I'll give the initial and then I'll give a follow-up. And then anything beyond that, we'll just reduce the price. So we'll just cut it in half, just to make it manageable for families, keep them coming back. So that's kind of how we do it. Um, and then if if a team wants to come in, since it's more volume, I'll drop it to either 100 or 75, depending on, the setup I have with the coach, so we'll see, if it's 10 athletes, I'll probably say 100. And then once it gets up to 15, 20, I'll drop it to 75. If it's an entire football team that comes in, say they're bringing in 60 players, you could even drop that a little lower, just depending on your agreement with that coach and what you want to do. Because you also don't want to scare them off by saying, you're going to bring me 60 kids and I'm going to charge everyone 125. It's like, no, the going rate is 125. I've seen 150. I know some of my friends who have Proteus and other business owners that they'll charge 150. And then there's others that charge 100. I kind of just went right in the middle to 125. But I'll just work something out with the coach. Hey, you're going to send us more kids, we'll drop the rate. So that's kind of how I think about it. So once the teams come in, I'll go on a case by case basis, but the going rate for the team is right around 75.
So obviously it's a dream. You can get a team at one time, 30 athletes that come to you, and you can make a good chunk of change in a couple of hours on a Saturday. But
Yeah.
it's not like that happens all the time. It's not like, team, I would imagine it's not like they just show up at your doorstep. So like, how have you found it? How have you been successful in, like, attracting those groups? Like, because it can be tricky sometimes if you're going to the coach, at a high school, but the individual players paying for it, right? So how have you sourced those opportunities? How'd you approach it? How did you, out of the gate, market it, communicate it? What'd you use? What'd you say?
So
Like,
this county I'm in down in South Florida, over the course of, almost 15 years, I've built, several relationships with the high school coaches, the pitching coaches, the hitting coaches. So I just leverage my relationships. But it always goes back to, you can't just call them and say, hey, I got Proteus. You want to come, test on it? Because the first question is, well, what is that? Why is it good? So it's all about explaining to them what it does. And the stories I was telling earlier, I use those all the time because they're powerful. So I use my network. I call these coaches. You talking about the community platform earlier, I'll just go on that platform. I'll download. I mean, I already have it saved on my phone at this point, but I will download the baseball flyer, the PDF, and I'll just send it out to that coach and I'll say, hey, look this over. And let's get on a phone call and talk about it. And then I tell the success stories. And, sometimes it takes, a couple months for the coach, oh, we're busy. We got games, we got practices, but we're going to get in there. We really like it. So, all this stuff takes time. It's not like you're going to send a flyer out to a coach. And some of these coaches are my good friends, right? And they're not, sending them the next day. So I think you have to be some patience, and then you just have to follow up with them. Hey, did you get a chance to review that flyer? Do you got some time to get on a call so we can talk for 10 minutes? I want to tell you a couple success stories. Things like that. And being patient and continuing to follow up goes a long way. So that's how I do it. I'm not the greatest with social media, so I haven't done it through social media channels. I know a lot of people are really good at that, so that's even better because you can attract more people. But I've just done it based on my relationships in the area, and I'm getting a lot of traction. There's, baseball season just started down here, but I think we have about 3 or 4 teams that want to come in. And then going back to like when that happens, obviously, it's the coach just sends them to test, right? No intention of training. But if 4 or 5 of the athletes like what you're talking about and like, hey, I can interpret this for you and give it to you, or you could just train here, by getting these teams in, say I get a team of 30 in, if I can convert even 4 of those to in-house or remote clients, that's a win. Imagine every single time you get a new team in and you convert just 10% of that team. That's a win every single time. And then if you get the whole team to train with you and sign on to a package, that's best case scenario.
So if a team comes in and they're each paying 70, 30 athletes come in, they're each paying $75 for a test. I'm presuming that's like, what's the whole test length? Is it, because I know
it only takes like 6 minutes, 5, 6 minutes a kid. I tell them to hold back on their questions just so we can get through it. And then at the end, I'll talk to them as a group, or we can set like a time. And I actually just did this right before the baseball season started. All these 40 pitchers that I assessed in November, we got on exactly what we're doing here. We got on a Google Meet with every single parent to like tell them what we did, how we did it. And it only took 30 minutes, and then we opened it up for questions. So, I mean, I think it's because the main thing is these parents come to the testing day and just they don't want to be bothersome, but still, like, they have questions, but they may not ask them. And so it's nice because the parents are footing the bill for a lot of this. So we want to make sure the parents understand what we're doing, how we're doing it. So yeah, I mean, kids come in 5, 6 minutes a test, go on to the next kid. When you got the group testing now, we could get 10 in an hour. So, you get 6 minutes times 10 athletes at 60 minutes. I mean, maybe a few extra minutes just to turn over each athlete. But yeah, I mean, you can get 10 athletes tested in like an hour and 5 minutes, an hour.
it's interesting too, with minimal explanation, it sounds like that's kind of interesting. And on the conversion side, so like, obviously you want to convert as many as you can to clients, but it's not always the case. And good news for you is that you're getting paid to do those assessments regardless.
Yes.
Tell me about what's that conversion look like? Do you have any idea on like percentage?
It's seasonal. It's seasonal. So like if the 30 kids, the 40 pitchers that came in, I think we got 15 of them on our app, which was huge because those were non-clients. Those are kids I recently met and did the test with. And then when we did the parent meeting, we, talked about, hey, we have all these results, we sent them to you, but if you want us to interpret them and create a program for you, we can do that. And 15 of them converted, and that's huge. I mean, I honestly didn't expect that, and that's what ended up happening. So it was great. So we got 15 more kids on our app, and then we just charged a 4-month in-season rate to follow those workouts on the app. And then at the end of the season, I'm going to get them back in, test them, because I want to know personally how many of you actually followed the program. Because last year when I did this, I saw like a 20% decrease in acceleration, not in overall power, not in overall strength, but I saw like a 20% decrease in acceleration. And that was powerful. The kids were like, wow, I didn't realize that I had that substantial of a loss. And then they all tell you they're working out in season. And then when they see that, they're like, well, I couldn't work out as much as I thought I would. And then all the truth comes out, because you got the results right in front of their face. So they can't really, uh, you know, lie to you there. So, it's just a nice way to track it. But
Yeah.
yeah, so um, you know, the getting more clients on the app is the goal in season, especially those kids that they don't have time to come to the facility because the coaches are keeping them at practice from 3:30 till 6:30, and then they're too tired to come to the facility. So it's like, hey, here's the app, do it in the morning, do it when you have a break, go to a weight room, go to an LA Fitness, go to your school gym, whatever. So that's kind of how I go about that.
Yeah, and one more thing on that, for athletes that were already clients of yours, right? I think you said you also have charged for assessments. If that's the case, for those existing clients,
Yes.
you did you do that like for the first assessment that you did with them, or like, or did you kind of do an initial assessment complimentary, and then you
Just
use
some of the guys I did a initial complimentary assessment, like some of those clients who have been with me a long time. But even existing clients still charged them for that. Like I said, I had it included a follow-up, and then I got to a point where I said, hey, as long as you guys stay a client, I'll keep doing the test. Now that's just my business model. Like you could charge for it every single time, but I just, as a thank you for staying with us consistently, I said, as long as you pay that monthly fee, which I increased $25 anyways by Proteus coming, I will then, keep giving you, follow-up assessments.
yeah,
If
built
you
in.
leave for 6 months and then
Yeah.
come back, I'm going to charge you again and we're going to get going again.
Yeah, that's a really good, way to approach it. And we also find that like if there is hesitancy initially by either parents or athletes themselves in like paying for an initial assessment, if that's how the business approaches it, the the most compelling way to kind of overcome that is just it starts with just clear communication of what are you going to get, what's the value, and we've found that it's super helpful to use these kind of like templatized flyers that we have in the community platform that kind of do that for you. um what else, Joe? Anything else? I know we're kind of set an hour to do this. I'm talk about this
No,
all
I
day
mean,
long.
are we doing like any questions? Or are we just gonna end it? Or I mean, is
There's
there
a
any?
couple questions in the chat.
Okay,
Oh,
so let's look at those. And then for anyone if anyone does need to jump off, Kaylee, we are recording this, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll kind of share this afterwards, and then I'm sure there'll be some follow-ups too. So we covered the question on, it looks like, do you charge for the initial assessments for everyone, whether they have signed up for training or not? I think we answered that. Are parents hesitant to pay that initial valuation? I think I mean, it all comes down to communication, right? But we kind of
yeah.
touched
I,
on that.
I like I say, always the only time you'll have parents combating that is if you haven't relayed like what you believe in to them. As long as you say Proteus is an integral part of what we're trying to do here as a facility or what we are doing, it's like, hey, it's just this is our process. Proteus is our process. So if you're not going to do it, then you may not be the best fit for us. I know you don't want to turn clients away either. So it's not always that easy, but you have to speak with conviction. You have to believe in it. You have to know what you're talking about. So yeah, I mean, I don't ever see any pushback from parents, not even on the price. They're not
Yeah.
like, oh, that 125 is too much for me.
Interesting. I see in the chat, Michael Sheffield. Yes, you can go ahead and ask the question if you want to take yourself off mute, or maybe I can take you off mute. Let's see.
All right, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
All right, perfect. So I think I told you I was moving to a new facility, and so the facility I'm at right now, we have um, probably around 40 or so independent trainers, and I'm getting ready to do an orientation on Proteus because everyone's asking about it. And some people work with athletes, some of them work with general pop. So my goal here is to make sure everyone gets certified if they want to use Proteus. And then as a trainer, I'm just trying to figure out what I should charge them in order for them to have access to Proteus, to use it for training with their clientele. And then also, should I be charging for the assessment? Should I allow them to do the assessments and charge? Should I require if the assessment should be charged, period? Or if they're paying me a monthly fee to use Proteus, should I just leave it up to them to do their own charge for assessment? So I'm kind of in that
Michael,
phase right now.
you're the owner of the business?
No, I'm independent as well, but so the place I'm at, we have a lot of independent trainers. So I'm still independent on my own business, but I have the Proteus unit and I have it at the location.
And you purchased the Proteus
Correct.
yourself. You just brought it to that location.
Correct.
Yeah, I would just do a profit split personally. I would just say you charge 150, maybe off every single time someone does an assessment, you just take 25 to 50 and give that trainer the rest. Like you take a small cut of it, every single one done. That's what I would do at my business. For my coaches, I didn't mention this as an incentive for my coaches to bring in more business to the facility. Every single assessment performed, if they brought in the client, I give the trainer $50 and my business keeps 75. So I
Okay.
give my coaches an incentive to make more money, one, and to kind of have their own little business within my business, I guess you can call it.
Yeah, but the question is if I was thinking of also just charging them a monthly fee for them to use it also.
Yes.
So
But
if
what if they don't? Go ahead, Sam.
No, it's an interesting question. And it reminds me of one of our partner sites in LA that I think has running a similar model. I will say this. I think there's a bunch of ways that you can do it. The number one thing though that matters, it's basically it's I hate to say it, but it's an irrelevant question until you've got trainer adoption, right? So as you said, starting with the trainer certification, absolutely the number one thing. If it requires, especially if the clientele is more gen pop, which I don't know if that's the case or not, but with independent trainer type facilities like that, that's typically what we see. Sometimes we see that in order to get that adoption, I need to, make sure that the trainers are using it, that they become real experts at it. You need to give them incentives to use it, to start using it out of the gate. And something that gets in the way of that is, creating a barrier, like charging for it, charging them or making them charge for it or something, say for the first 30 days. So I would definitely recommend not creating that barrier out of the gate, because you need the trainers there to get those kind of reps, no pun intended, under their belt so that they can become experts. Once you see those patterns, and then, basically through that process, what we see is that it's really, really hard to then take it away from somebody, right? Once they're starting to use it and rely on it, it's very, very difficult to, it's sticky. It's very, very difficult to pull it away. And I think once you start to understand what the value they're experiencing, then you can start to kind of price, what the value is. And we can kind of, this is sort of somewhat unique. We can definitely take this conversation offline and bring in some other partner sites that are similar.
Yeah, because we so just to give a heads up, I know you guys get ready to go, but so I have at least like 5 or 6 people that work with athletes. It's not just all general pop. I have some people that does deal with mobility. They do functional movement and mobility and recovery, things like that, and they're interested right now. So like I'm getting ready to meet with them, and I'm going to make sure they get certified. I'm going to walk them through the test, do the performance test, take them through the machine, all those things. But they want to use it right now. So like when you guys are like with the performance, where just the athlete standpoint is a little different in how you can model that. You're like, okay, you're going to charge for this every time you come in because they're going to work on different things. But I got like 40 potential trainers that that could be interested in using the machine. And since I have it here, I want to make sure that I'm not just doing this, kind of keeping in the box of just only doing assessments. Like if they want to use it to do some training and stuff on it, like how do I do that? I don't want to have everybody using it. So I basically have a fingerprint lock where I can create 100 fingerprints. If someone wants to use it, they can unlock it. I'll know what time they're getting the handles out of the locker. So if I get like 5 people right now or 6 that want to start using it right now, should I be charging them a monthly fee for them to use it? And then should I say, hey, if anyone wants to do assessments, it has to go through my system, and I'll pay you per assessment that you give me.
We could get yeah, there's a lot of layers there. We could get on a call after this if you want, or later today,
Okay.
or and go through that, because I have a lot more.
That.
I have a lot more ideas as well on that.
Yeah, these are awesome questions,
Right.
Michael. And I think it's a unique circumstance. What I think we should do is this. Let's take this offline and have a call with you and our customer success team and go into detail here to figure out how to best provide guidance here, because there's a lot of ideas here.
Perfect.
Any super appreciate the question. Love to know, anyone else have any other questions, or Michael have any follow-ons?
No, I don't have. That was my only thing, because most people have their clientele already.
Yep.
So it's not like they're building. They already have X amount of clients and work with teams and things like that.
Yep.
So, all right.
Makes a ton of sense. Excellent. So unless there's other questions right now, I think let's conclude this. We will share the recording afterwards, and along with that, we'll figure out if there are follow-on questions. We'll communicate in the when we distribute the recording of this. We'll communicate where's the best place to direct those. Of course, I can make myself available, Joe as well. It's joe.ferrer@proteusmotion.com. I'm Sam at proteusmotion.com. I think high level, the trainer adoption as quickly as possible is just like paramount across the board. So it's like, get familiar with Proteus yourself first, become an expert with you and your trainers, use it with your existing clients. The first thing that matters is that you know how to deliver the experience, what to say, why to use it, what to do with the info, which we can absolutely help provide guidance and support on that front. From there, the sky's the limit, right? But you can't put the cart before the horse. You can't expect to be finding ways to produce ROI if you don't have those fundamentals first. And those fundamentals can be achieved pretty quickly. And we've got good support systems to do that. So, Joe, thank you so much for sharing all this detail. Awesome experience, success, super impressive. Obviously, there's a lot more we could talk about, and maybe we will in a follow-up. Otherwise, I really appreciate everyone taking the time to join us today, and we'd love to continue to support, and we exist to help you achieve success, however that may be.
Yeah, Sam, I want to say thank you again. And if anyone does have any additional questions, I know we just had the hour, feel free to reach out. But yeah, Sam, I really appreciate the opportunity to come on today.
You got it. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
See ya.
Take care.